Happy International Women's Day. Ben Jacobs with you. Day one of SIGA's Female Leadership in Sports Summit. Great to have your company all around the world. Good morning to those of you up bright and early in North, South and Central America. Here in London, it is, of course, the afternoon. We've got a global audience, over 50 countries represented and 2,000 delegates. Do engage with us as well. Via the app, you can donate to SIGA, and in particular, some of that money will go towards mentorship for young female leaders who are hoping one day to get into the boardroom and, of course, other areas within the sports industry. You'll see a donate now button via the app. Even if you can just spare the price of a beer, a glass of champagne or a cup of coffee, that would be greatly appreciated. And because it is International Women's Day, we're also asking you to engage with us via social media. On Twitter, tell us some of your female role models. I'm particularly keen for shout outs within the sports industry to people who have specifically helped you in your career. Give us a name, tell us why they're important to you, and please make sure that you use the hashtag SIGAWomen. I'll read some of them out a little bit later. So once again, a warm welcome to SIGA's Female Leadership in Sports Summit. We've already had our opening webinar that will be available on YouTube very shortly, but let's move straight on now to our next session. This is called What Needs to be Done by Sports Organizations to Promote Women in Sport. It's a very important and broad topic, and we have a stellar panel that I can introduce you to now. Delighted to be joined from the world of rugby by the General Manager of Women's Rugby, Katie Sadlier at World Rugby. Alongside her, the Chief Women's Football Officer at FIFA, Sarai Barraman. She's done brilliant work, particularly at the last World Cup in 2019 and building up now to 2023. And as far as 2023 is concerned, alongside Sarai and Katie, we have Sarah Walsh, the head of women's football at the 2023 Women's World Cup Legacy and Inclusion. That takes place in Australia and New Zealand. And our final panelist is Jackie Davidson, the Assistant Director Golf Development at the R&A. Speaking of golf, I almost watched Lee Westwood win yesterday at Bays Hill, only to divot from the centre of the fairway late on, and he ended up finishing in second place. Our moderator is a good friend of mine and the best in the business. She is known as the First Lady of Sports. Delighted to be joined by the award-winning South African TV and radio sports broadcaster, Carol Shabalala. And Carol is also the go-to voice for many FIFA events as well. Carol, great to see you. Looking well. It's over to you for webinar number 2.
Awesome stuff, Ben. Thank you so much. I'm really, really excited to be a part of this fantastic summit on International Women's Day and to be moderating a panel where we've got speakers that are really holding some important roles in sports organizations all across the globe. Really powerful women. Such a great, great honor. And I'm also holding it down for the large audience from Africa that are tuned in and that are watching. Let's get straight into it. I think that the timing of this particular discussion was absolutely perfect. Coming out of course, the keynote address by Shaima was talking about the important role of sport in terms of promoting gender equality. Now we take it a little bit deeper and talk about the role that sporting organizations and federations can play in order to further promote women in sports. You've introduced our wonderful panelists, but I'm going to ask them, first of all, to tell us a little bit more about what it is that they do and their role. And we'll start off with you, Katie. Welcome. It's such a great honor to have you as part of this panel.
Oh, it's fantastic to be here. I have a really special job, I guess, like everyone on this panel, but my role as the General Manager of Women's Rugby is to grow the global game for women, and with a real vision of normalizing women's involvement in rugby, so that when you think of the game, you don't think about it as a game that some women play. It is a game that is totally embraced by girls and boys, men and women around the world. So really special role, and really loving being a part of this panel this morning.
Yeah, we'll discuss your role a little bit more shortly. I'd like to say hello to Sarai. Great to see you once again. Sarai, can you tell everyone that's tuned in a little bit more about your role at FIFA?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Happy International Women's Day. Very similar role to my friend Katie, but in the sporting code of football. I have the great privilege of being the chief officer in charge of the women's game in FIFA, responsible for developing the game across the globe with our 211 member associations, And of course, delivering the World Cups, of which the next one Ben mentioned is in 2023 in Australia and New Zealand. And then also looking at how we bring more women into football in positions of leadership and throughout the administration. And I'm sure that's a topic that we're going to be discussing at some length during this panel.
We definitely are. Sarah can definitely relate to your particular role. I know that you know each other well. Sarah, great to have you as part of this discussion as well. Tell us more about your role.
Hi, Carol. Hi, everybody. Great to be here. Happy International Women's Day. It's a very early morning here at 2 a.m. in Sydney. But much like the panel, all the panel members here have a very exciting role, obviously leading up to the Women's World Cup in 2023. So I oversee women's football, which captures the Women's World Cup legacy and also inclusion. So really trying to make the game accessible to all. So we're excited to be on this journey for the Women's World Cup in 2023.
We're also extremely honored to have Jackie Davidson as a part of this panel. She's managed to find time in a very busy schedule. Jackie, hello.
Hi there, everyone. It's a pleasure to join the panel today. My role with the RNA is largely now taken up with supporting all our work with our 157 affiliates around women and girls golf. Not only do we try and support the increasing participation, but we also aim to support more women coming into the sport in terms of leadership positions and volunteering within golf. So it's been an exciting journey over the last sort of 3-4 years that I've been involved with the organisation. So it's great to be having a good conversation with other women involved in sport today.
Oh, yes. Looking forward to hearing more, Jackie. All right. Just a reminder as well to everyone that's a part of this wonderful summit that we want you to engage with our panelists. So you'll get an opportunity a little bit later on to send any questions through, to pose your questions for our panelists. All right. Let's start off with you, Katie. You've got a very impressive resume from being on the ground as a successful athlete to getting involved in sport governance. Now, would you say that this is something that's very important in sport organizations, to actually have female leaders who will be there really pushing the women in sports agenda?
Absolutely. I mean, I guess when I first started work at World Rugby, we developed an 8-year strategy. We're now almost at the halfway mark, which is not similar to a lot of the other strategies that most of the other international federations have in place. But we deliberately decided that if we were going to make a difference and grow the game in a sustainable way, we had to focus on leadership and getting more women involved in senior decision-making positions across the globe. So we did a couple of really, really cool things. In the first year of signing off on the global strategy, we added 17 women directors to our global council. So we went from 0 to 35% of women on the highest decision-making body in World Rugby. And then to back that up, which is really special right now with International Women's Day, we built a pipeline program and we launched a scholarship program where we identify women who have amazing leadership potential, where we give them a scholarship to support their leadership journey. And we currently we just announced another 12 today on International Women's Day. We have 50 women around the globe and have invested about $500,000 on scholarships to help them take up the role to assist rugby in developing rugby as a game. But having more women in those leadership positions, making it normal, is something that really draws more and more women into the game as well as men into the game.
Agreed. Sarai, I know that this is something that you're very passionate about as well, affording more opportunities and more space for women in positions of influence. As the sole female member of the 2016 FIFA Reform Committee, you advocated in favor of concrete requirements to secure the presence of more women in leadership positions and more resources for women's football. Tell us more.
Well, it's interesting because FIFA went through a bit of a tumultuous time a few years back in 2015. And you could say now, looking back, that that was a very necessary thing to happen in order for the change to take place. And I always like to say that it's moments of adversity where we have the biggest opportunities. And certainly for myself and for women's football, this has definitely been the case. We had a bit of a scandal and that brought about a reforms committee. As you mentioned, I was the only female in that committee, which has been a theme, I have to say, in my football administration life, but something that has changed and is continuing to change. And within that committee, basically, I pushed forward a lot of proposals to institutionalise within our regulatory framework, within our constitution, the need to have more women in decision-making positions within the game. And I don't think I have to go into big detail within this panel about the benefits that that brings, but obviously having a more diverse decision-making body comes better decision-making processes. So yeah, fortunately all those proposals were approved in 2016, and I'm very lucky now to be in a position where I can implement some of those changes in my current role within FIFA. But very much in line with what Katie has mentioned, you know, you really have to look at the top down and then the pipeline, the bottom up. So we can do something from the top as FIFA, changing regulations and statutes, but we have to back it up with programs that actually support the pipeline.
Yeah, Sarah, you can most certainly attest to some of the benefits that come with a lot of the programs that you have in place as well to promote women in sport when it comes to football in Australia. Tell us a little bit more about some of those programs that your federation, Football Federation Australia, has in place to promote women in sport.
Yes, thank you. Well, with the Women's World Cup coming up in 2023, we have developed, I guess you could say, a 6 to 7 year plan as to how we want to leave a legacy through hosting the actual event itself. So we're working along with FIFA and New Zealand, our counterparts, in delivering the World Cup. There's 5 pillars to the plan. One of those pillars are focused on leadership and development. So what that really focuses on is kind of the system change, but also the programmatic work we'll need to do to be able to, as Sarai said, kind of make sure that we're building the base and a pipeline of talent across coaching, administration, officiating, or even looking at programs for the media, because we realise that all of these levers will need to be pulled for us to be able to start to build a culture for women and girls. So, you know, programs much like what Sarai has actually delivered at FIFA, which I was actually fortunate enough to go through 2 of those. So, you know, building networks and making sure that women and girls have the tools. Running parallel to that is education for, you know, the leaders across the game in Australia. So thinking about how we start to, you know, build that understanding of executives across the game who are actually making decisions to make sure that they completely understand what the barriers are for women and girls, so we can all work together to move along that continuum. So there's some exciting programs that we're looking to bring to life across all of those areas of the game. But also, you know, part of that is education for, you know, our 2,500 plus community clubs, because that's where it starts, right down at the grassroots, where, you know, sometimes where a lot of the change needs to actually happen. We're already seeing a big shift in the number of women involved in the game here. So, you know, we have 22% of our total participation are women. We're looking to increase that up to 50% by 2027.
Wow, Jackie, you're listening to the success stories from the other panelists that are working with sporting codes that have global popularity. How much more difficult is it, though, when you look at some of the lesser popular codes, for example, with your work and your experience with golf? How much more difficult is it for these sporting federations and organizations to promote women in sport?
I think the challenge for us in golf is a lot around perception and perception of the sport, unfortunately, in terms of actually trying to broaden the audiences. And I think one of the key things that we're recognising, similar to what the other women have just spoke about, is that we do need to work both at the participation level at the grassroots, but also at the leadership side of things. And we've already launched our programme. It's been running now around trying to get more women into leadership positions within golf. We've seen you know, some real good things that have come out of that programme, with over 50% of the first group now in more senior positions, and 6 out of the 10 in the second group are now being retained within the organisation, or indeed have been promoted. I think at a grassroots level, like Sarah just said, we really need to change that whole culture and environment within the golf club setting, and trying to draw more people into the sport through different avenues and different opportunities, and equally trying to encourage existing members of golf to engage and be a support network for many people who want to take up the sport. The benefit of golf is that it can be played from a very young age to a very older age, whereas for other sports the opportunities don't exist necessarily to retain people for as long within the sport. So, and much of what we're seeing at the moment is around the whole health benefits of being outdoors and enjoying the environment in the fresh air and the sort of socializing, or the limited socializing at the moment that there is available. But yeah, it's great to learn from other sports as well and see what has been done, what's been tried and tested. And I still maintain that a number of the barriers and challenges remain very similar across sports for women and girls.
I know a lot of you are talking about grassroots and the importance thereof. Katie, I want to come back to you because you mentioned the scholarship program. Tell us what more needs to be done to ensure the long-term development and sustainability of women's sport.
Yeah. I think that one of the things that has become really clear to me in the 4 years I've been in this role is that there is not one solution. There's not like a magic. If you do this, it will change the world. You need to approach all these leadership challenges very holistically, looking at what are the different levers and pulls you can do. So when I look at what we're trying to do in leadership, yes, it's about providing scholarships and pipelines, but it is also about lifting the profile of women. So we've done a lot on developing, having a change and look in terms of the content on our websites and on all our publications to make sure that they're representative of both men and women, and that we do profiles on all the women that we give scholarships to. So it's not, and then we create a support network. I mean, the scholarship program in particular are a very active group of now 49 women, which is introducing the extra 12 today, who have a WhatsApp group, talk to each other regularly, share what's working, what's not working inside their unions, and are a real support network when things aren't going as well as maybe you want them to. There's always one person around just to sort of say, hey, have you tried this? So creating those networks, creating those mentorships, lifting the profile, creating those professional development opportunities, and then really, really important, and I know I've heard lots of people talk about this, quite often when we look at leadership programs for women, we think the problem is the woman. And so we have all these programs that are aimed at building more confidence in women, and whether that's coaches or on-field leaderships, we also have to address the culture inside the organizations that prevents women from rising to those roles. So we've developed a resource called Balance the Board, which is a kind of non-zealous toolkit on why this is important and how you can work as a leadership group inside the organization to embrace diversity and make it a welcoming place for women, whether you're looking at your recruitment practices or just basically what is great practice in terms of diversity and decision-making. So it's not just one quick thing, unfortunately.
I see, Sarai, you were nodding to a lot of what it is that Katie was actually saying. Do you want to add to that as well when you look at FIFA and your role and your programs?
I 100% agree with everything that she said. Yeah, there's no magic pill, unfortunately, that's going to kind of elevate women. It really is an issue of addressing the entire ecosystem. From grassroots development on the pitch, bringing more and more young girls into the game, to programs like Women's Leadership, where we can create networks and support and empower and educate women to step up into those positions of leadership. It's about, regulatory change, what we can do from the top down. And a big part of it, and Katie touched on this, is elevating the status of these women that are success stories. Creating role models for others that are looking to come into the game, and really championing, women that are doing a great job, and men. I have to say, men have to be included in the conversation. This is an issue for everyone. It's not just a woman's issue. And I think, it's important that we highlight the success stories, what is working well. So much of what we see on social media and in the public narrative these days is quite negative. There's a space there for positive stories to come out. And I think collectively we all have to work to push and promote actually the success stories that are happening within our sports.
And Sarai, I mean, one only needs to look at the example of the FIFA Women's World Cup and the kind of figures and the kind of returns that come with that are possible when it comes to the women's game. What advice can you give other federations as well to get to the same point as where FIFA is or where FIFA was with the last Women's World Cup and to get such glowing reports and great returns?
It's very much about long-term investment. You know, that World Cup was the biggest World Cup that we've had. It's the biggest female sporting event in the world, but that doesn't happen overnight. You know, there's years of investment and build-up that has gone into that. There's years of work that happens away from the playing fields at the World Cup, across, as I mentioned before, a multitude of areas to get it to that level. But I think a big game changer for us within FIFA was a conscious decision from the highest level, our president and general secretary, that the Women's World Cup is a top tier event and will be treated the same as our Men's World Cup. And, you know, once you have that kind of top-down support, that resonates right throughout the structures of football.
Jackie, what I really love, I mean, all you need to do is just look at this particular summit and the individuals that we're hearing from. What I really love is that for women that are entering the sports industry in any capacity, I mean, they've got some really great models that they can look up to now and can look to for guidance and to see what's possible.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, as Katie said, it's not just about progressing women, it's actually creating that support mechanism that comes behind them and around them, that they've got someone to lean on or a network to lean on. And I think that's really key. But for, you know, sport in general, we need to also celebrate the roles and the different career opportunities there are. And I think at times we don't often talk enough about the opportunities that exist for young women that may be starting out in their careers, and you know, they may be involved with legal or hospitality or event management, and they don't actually realize that in sport all those opportunities do exist to, you know, follow your passion, but actually do, you know, what you've trained to do. And I think there's a real role for all of us to actually shout about our, you know, about women in their careers and celebrate that, because without that sort of network and, you know, essentially popping down the ladder for another woman to climb up behind you, then you know, it's really, really key to ensure that we continue to work hard on creating that whole support ecosystem around us all.
Sarah, can you tell us what some of the ways that girls and women around the world, what are some of the ways that they can be given a greater access and also opportunities to participate in sport and get involved in sport?
Yeah, I think we've touched on a lot of the ways. Obviously, you know, there's through playing the game, right? And that's how I entered the sport itself, and played for my country for about 10 years. But it obviously built out the skills around, you know, leadership and collaboration and discipline, resilience, all these things that have fed me quite well beyond my actual playing career. But you know, I think that at a very granular level, girls can actually do whatever they choose to do, much like, you know, a 5-year-old boy. And I think that the opportunity will come when we start to build more inclusive environments. And I think largely what we talk about is cultural change. So, and that takes time. So attitudes and beliefs. And I think if we go back to where it all starts at the community level, where, you know, myself, your first introduction to the game, if it happens to be so at a community level, what's the experience that they receive when they turn up? Are they put on the backfields? Are they given the, you know, the oversized uniforms? Are they do they have access to the change rooms? And a lot of times that we hear stories that they don't. I think it's about actually making sure that they have the bare essentials in it and they feel respected. This word's been thrown around a lot lately. Does the young girl turn up? Do their parents feel like that they were treated equally compared to, you know, the young boy that turns up? And sadly, more often than not, that doesn't happen. We are seeing a massive shift. I think when you look at the Women's World Cup, and I really want to talk about the players for a second here. I know Sarai talks about the movement that happened in 2019 around the players using their voice for change. I think that has a flow-on effect to, those young girls that are watching the game. We had over 1 billion people watch the Women's World Cup in 2019. Imagine the impact that has on the young girl that's turning up to a football club. And I don't know if you've met this next generation of young women, but they're wild. They're inspirational. I get so much of my energy from just listening to them speak. They're so articulate. They know what they deserve. They know how to get it. And I think that we're starting to see a shift that, they're demanding more access and they know what equal opportunity looks like. So I think that it's all these things that we want to make sure they have a good experience in the game, but they can also see what they can be. Because we talk about visibility a lot and raising the profile. Unless it's all these things happening at once, opportunity and access won't come. So we're seeing a shift, and obviously hosting a Women's World Cup, it has that greater impact on a young girl's, perception of the game and what she can actually be within that.
We've got some really amazing questions that are coming in from people all across the globe that are loving this conversation, that are loving hearing from all of you, our wonderful panelists. So I want to afford them an opportunity. I want to give them a little bit more time to get those questions answered. Let me ask you, this is a very important one, and I'm going to ask each of you this question. We'll start off by hearing from you, Katie. Obviously, the buzzword and a major influence all across the globe from last year, COVID-19. Tell us how that's impacted the progress in your particular federation, Katie, and how you are adjusting to life in a world with COVID.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that COVID has been a challenge, but it kind of really, it wasn't an excuse to take the pedal off the metal. We developed a strategy which identified some pretty big challenges for women in rugby globally. And if anything, what we've been able to do in the last 12 months in particular is to stop, think, and see where we need to push further, where we need to rethink. So there's been a lot of thinking. And one of the things that we launched 2 years ago was a campaign called Try and Stop Us, Start Rugby, Become Unstoppable. And it was a global campaign which lifted the profile of some of the challenges and barriers that exist for women in cultures all around the world to participate in physically demanding sports. And although it was a rugby campaign, it really was about women in sport. This year during COVID, what we did was we gave people the tools, the unions and the regions, the tools to develop their own unstoppable campaigns. And all around the globe, they've used this opportunity to keep lifting the profile of women, keeping women engaged in the sport. Asia this today launched, they created their own top 16 unstoppables. Africa have. And so we've got many campaigns going at a regional and a union level, all taking the opportunity, when they're not necessarily playing, to talk about the importance of women in rugby and women's sport.
Let's hear from you, Sarai, and the impact of COVID-19 and how FIFA has adjusted.
Again, I think I just have to echo a little bit what Katie has said. Yes, COVID-19 has been difficult. It's impacted, the whole society. Football certainly has been affected as well. But I think as a governing body, the key message for us, and something that's been followed up, quite concretely with our actions, is that this isn't the time to take your foot off the accelerator when it comes to the women's game or women's sports in general. And something that Katie and I discussed quite early in the pandemic was also the narrative around it. I think at the very beginning, there was a lot of fear about what COVID would do to women's sports. And we heard a lot of discussions, and there were a few headlines here and there that were quite negative in the narrative. And that's something that I feel is very important for us, especially those of us that are involved in the leadership of women's sports, is to change that narrative and make sure that we actually use moments like this for positive change. We can leverage times like this to actually sit back, review, look at where we're at, and come back bigger, stronger, and better than ever. And certainly my message would be to all of those that are involved in the governance of sport, now is the time to prioritize, to continue to invest, to increase investment, and bring women's sports into the forefront, more so than ever.
Thank you for that. Sarah?
Yeah, I think obviously, very early on, it was actually about, maintaining that connection with community. We have, as I said, over 2,500 plus clubs here in Australia. And, we seem to be on the back end of getting out of COVID right now. And we've kind of uniquely, given that we have the World Cup, we have a unique opportunity here in Australia to partner with our federal government to make sure that they're really leaning on our sport. It's the biggest sport here in Australia. We have over 2 million participants to utilise our sport to help, I guess, grow the economy, social and impact, the community socially to kind of come on the back, through that recovery, through the pandemic. So that's how we've positioned our sport through the Women's World Cup. And so we're partnering with the federal government to make sure that they utilise the communities we already have and the infrastructure that we have to start to help that recovery process. So look, it was a very difficult time. I think there's some real fundamentals that we thought about during the pandemic, and some very simple things like making sure that our percentage of women in our own internal organisation didn't go down, to make sure that women's voices were heard and at the table when decisions were being made. And quite proud of the fact that maintained the status quo in terms of how many women we actually have in the organisation. So we made sure that it was still on the agenda. And I think that there are a lot of new ways, learnings and new things that we'll do in the future. I mean, if you think about how much we used to spend on travel and accommodation, we've redirected those funds into, investing in the actual programs, and everything's gone online. Look at us today. So a lot of ways that we could be more efficient and redirect those funds and make sure that the investment didn't go down.
Would like to hear your experience, Jackie. Can you tell us a little bit about life during COVID times?
I think golf is sort of benefited in some respects with other sports sort of being shut down. And whilst the sport has been in and out of many restrictions, and as countries have been in and out of restrictions, we've seen a growth in participation, and a healthy growth in female participation in Great Britain and Ireland as one example. And I think one of the key things, and similar to what Katie said, is that we've tried to launch a campaign around what we call For Everyone, which really tries to help support at a grassroots level, at club level, clubs ensuring that their environment is, and the culture, the fun, friendly clubhouses when they open up are going to be ready to retain some of these new audiences that have been attracted to golf. And indeed, going forward, that they will then be able to attract even more people to come to the sport. And I think with having that open space and the health benefits that we can, sing loudly about in golf, then I think that has really benefited the sport. It's still a challenging time. Certainly at club level, it's going to be challenging. But I think if we can really work hard and support it as an international body, all the countries around the world, if we can support them in trying to ensure that we sing about the good things about sport, and also ensuring that the environment, the clubhouse setting, etc., is really conducive to retaining new and younger audiences, and many women and girls who have been attracted to come to the sport at this present moment in time.
Thank you so much for that, ladies. We've got a wonderful set of questions being sent through, and they're coming through thick and fast. So I'm going to go straight into that. Great question here from Vicky Conde, who's involved with sports ethics and integrity at KU Leuven University in Madrid. And I think maybe this one, Sarah, if you can take this one. What can be done by international organizations to achieve equal pay by national associations for their national teams?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think that conversation is most definitely on the agenda, and was on the agenda in 2019. And look, actually, we are one of the member associations that were able to implement equal pay through our national teams. And I think that given that I've actually been through that process, I guess I can talk to how that eventuated. And and what the journey looked like. And I think that we talked about it previously here, having your men's and women's national teams on the same page and thinking about what the end goal looks like and how you define equality, right? Is it through conditions? Are we talking about pay? The overall, I guess you can say, employment framework for a player has to be defined before you can actually work back from that endpoint. And so, we went on that journey with our Players Association here. And I guess I'll just talk about our local environment here and really think about what that looks like. So that happened a couple of years back now. And I think that, my learnings from that was that you really have two pools of players that need to come together to be able to define it and work back as to what that looks like. They also have a revenue share, player-generated revenue share model where each of that is split in two, and then work back to actually cater for player match payments for the men's national teams, but also more security for the women's national teams through retainers. So I think at a local level, that working needs to happen between the association and the players union. I think at an international level, I think it's around the conversation and thinking about, I think the challenge for the international organisation is that we're all at very different, I guess you could say, stages on the continuum in terms of change. You have developed countries, much like the US soccer, and then you have Australia, and then you have countries within Asia that obviously need a lot more support, and the nuances around culture and religion in some of these countries. You're dealing with a very different kind of set of circumstances. So I think one size fits all is probably not going to work, but I think that working with those associations for that, driving broader gender equality will obviously impact the pay equity discussion. So I think the international body does have a significant role to play in that, and it's through education and obviously starting with the discussions around prize money for the Women's World Cup as well.
Thank you so much for that, Sarah. And thanks, Vicky, for that great question. We've got a question here for Katie. This one from Lynette Lomia Edward, who's the sports director at Special Olympics Samoa. And she says, what are the main barriers to women becoming involved in sports, and how can sports organizations overcome these?
I mean, I think it's, once again, it's not just one thing. The challenge really is to sit down, because it varies from culture to culture. I mean, one of the things that I've been absolutely amazed about since joining rugby is how fast rugby has grown in non-traditional markets. So, you think about it as a New Zealand, Australia, UK, Six Nations sport, but when I see the takeoff of this game in countries like Iran and India and Malaysia and Guam and Uganda, it is all about working out what are the specific things that need to be addressed to remove those barriers. But it isn't one thing. And I think quite often the real challenge when you're talking about getting more women involved in sports participation is that there are so many things that people just don't seem to want to talk about. And getting people to start sitting down in a room and addressing those barriers is vital. So, whether it's about what the uniform must or must not look like, and whether that inhibits or doesn't inhibit different types of cultures, let's just discuss things and make sure that we create ways that those things are not barriers to participation. And the challenge is getting more women involved in the decision making and that are involved to actually grow the game so that you're getting that dialogue going.
Thank you, Lynetta, for that question. Here's a question for Sarai. This one from Jacqueline Cronenberg, account manager at Tefisa in the Netherlands. She asks, do you think that simply having women in leadership positions positively contributes to women's empowerment, or do they have a broader obligation?
It's a very good question. I mean, I think obviously having women in leadership positions, first of all, creates visibility. And I think that's a very important component in growing the representation of women. I'm very fortunate that at the top of the administration of FIFA, we have Secretary General Fatma Samora, who I know you know well, Carol, you know, and just having a female in that highest position in our game, for all of those of us that are under her, you know, that she's like a pillar of strength for us. She gives us something to aim for, and it makes us feel supported within the organization, knowing that there's a woman within that position. But I think it's also important that just because you are a woman in a leadership position within sports, that doesn't mean that your topic has to be women's sport. It doesn't mean that you have to be all about women's empowerment. You know, you may be working in a role that's completely unrelated to women's sports, you know, and I think the key for us, because we are a minority, we are working in male-dominated industries, is just to make sure that in everything that we do it well, that we're well prepared, you know, that we're very knowledgeable on our topics, whatever that may be. You know, to show that within those positions, whatever they are that we're in, you know, that we deserve to be there, not because we're women, but because we're good at what we do and we're well prepared and we're educated, and we can hold our own amongst the others in the boardroom.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jacqueline, for that wonderful question. Here's a question for Jackie from Daniel Beatty from Denver. Daniel says, should we continue to differentiate between men and women in the practicalities of sport? For example, different tee boxes in golf where women have shorter courses. Do we need more inclusivity in sport in this area?
Well, speaking from a golf perspective, we're looking at shorter formats. We're looking at course setup, but it's not setting up a golf course for women. It's setting up a golf course depending on what time you have available to play, about whether you want to go quickly and play 9 holes, whether you're getting older and you can't hit the ball as far, so that you still can enjoy the game. I think that is part of the challenge for sport, is where there are certain things that you maybe do have to take cognizance of in terms of whether male or females are different. I think for us as a sport, it's about being inclusive, being equal, and offering the same opportunities. And with an opportunity that golf has in terms of retaining people in the sport for you know, 80s, 90s, then it's not necessarily about setting up that course specifically for women. It's about all abilities, anyone can play at any time, and people are there to enjoy the sport and get the most out of it. I wouldn't like to speak on behalf of rugby or football, but there are other experts in the room that can talk to that. But I think, yeah, for a golf perspective, I don't necessarily think that we have to be creating women-specific golf courses.
Frozen.
All right, thank you so much, Jackie, for that. Does anyone from the world of rugby or football, do you ladies want to add to that?
Well, maybe I can say certainly at the elite level, at the top end, you know, we can't deny that actually we're in the business of entertainment in sports. That's what it's about, you know, the World Cups, the events that we run at the highest level. It's about entertainment, and we have so many other mediums now that we're competing with that perhaps weren't there years ago when we were participating ourselves. So I don't think that we should knock back ideas around how we can actually make our sport more entertaining. I think it's, you know, there's no secret that women and men physiologically are different in many, many ways. And I think that we have to dare to look into things and different ideas around, you know, what can we do within women's sports, and maybe there are practical changes that can be made to make our sport more entertaining, to attract more fans, to make it more popular, to elevate, you know, the status of our athletes, to make them household names, because after all, we are in the business of entertainment. I don't know. What do you think, Katie?
I don't know, it's kind of a tricky question, but I guess it kind of fundamentally falls down to the fact that rugby is rugby. Rugby is rugby. Rugby is played by men, it's played by women. when the women are playing, I've heard a lot of people after our last World Cup sort of say to me that they felt that the game was faster, it flows more because there's not as many tackles and breakdowns, but they're playing the same game, the same rules. We're sort of slightly, maybe a bit more fortunate than some of the other codes here, is we have so many different formats of the game. Whether it's the sevens that are at the Olympic, which is really, really, really fast and furious and full of speed, or it's the power of the 15s game, or I always, when I first started, I got to visit Mongolia for an Asia rugby General Assembly, and they play snow rugby there. So snow rugby, beach rugby, 5-a-side, 7s-a-side, and the reality is that both women and men play all those different formats. And but it is like Sarai said, when it comes to getting engagement in terms of fans and drawing more people in, you want the game to be really exciting at that elite level. So, but rugby is rugby. The rules are the same.
Great stuff. Thank you so much, ladies. We're running out of time. I think we've got just about enough time for a closing word from each of you. Just a powerful statement, as we round up this particular panel discussion. So we'll start off, let's hear from Jackie, first of all. What needs to be done by sport organizations to promote women in sport? Your closing statement, please.
I think we continue to work hard at being diverse and inclusive, and we will prosper as a result of that. And I think I would challenge every woman out there to help and support another woman today on International Women's Day, and be inspiring and be amazing.
We love it. Thank you so much. Sarah?
I'd probably say that, look, just trial new things. Obviously, there's a lot of great research out there with the number of organisations already implementing. You might fail the first time and it might not work, but it's because you're trying to change culture, and that's a long-term change piece. So, influence everything you can within your sphere, and just try new things.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Sarai, what's your closing statement for us?
I would just echo what my colleagues have said, and add to that just to say to not let setbacks stop you from trying to achieve, equality and bringing more women in. And let's not wait for International Women's Day to bring this conversation forward. These are conversations that we should be having every day. And those of us that are on this panel, and many of you that I'm sure are watching, you're in organizations where you do have a voice and an influence. So use that voice, as Jackie said, to support other women, especially those that are coming behind.
Thank you so much. And finally, Katie.
Okay, I know the clock's ticking, but I guess my tweet for my International Women's Day tweet was that I choose to challenge men and women to continue to choose to challenge, to do what they can to address all barriers that impede women's participation and involvement in sport. So that's my final word. And thank you very much for letting me be involved, and what a great group of women.
Fantastic group of women. Thank you all so much for giving us your time and those wise words. And a big thanks as well to the global audience that have enjoyed it. It's been an absolute pleasure for myself, Carol Shabalala, to be at the helm of this really, really wonderful conversation. Ben, back to you as we continue this wonderful SIGA Summit.
Hey everyone, it's Karen Court from the United States, currently working at Lakeshore Foundation as their Policy and Public Affairs Coordinator. I'm also currently a SIGA champion and on their SIGA Standing Committee on Gender, Race, Inclusion, and Diversity. What should sports organizations do to co-power girls and women in sport? Well, as a disabled woman in sport, my question is, what can sports organizations do to co-power disabled women and girls in sport? Well, the first thing that we can do is recognize that the inclusion and participation of women and girls with disabilities in sport is a global responsibility. The second thing that we can do is to provide women and girls with more opportunities for competitive and recreational sport. The third thing that we can do is involve women and girls with disabilities in all outreach programs. The fourth thing, showcase and have meaningful and impactful representation of disabled women and girls as successful athletes, successful coaches, successful role models, and successful leaders. And lastly, let us continue to include and prioritize disabled women and girls in governance and decision-making opportunities. Looking forward to expanding this conversation. Talk soon.
Hello, my name is Michelle Chai. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Olympic Council of Malaysia, and I'm also a mentor on the SIGA Women Global Mentorship Program.
Hello, my name is Maysaf Saivis from Lebanon. I am a former Lebanese table tennis champion and currently a table tennis coach at Antonia University for physical education students, and I am a mentee on the SIGA Women Global Mentorship Program.
Throughout my 20 over years in sports, I've been fortunate enough to shadow some fantastic leaders, both male and female. Being able to have someone that I can always refer to not only gave me the confidence to chart my own path, but there was always someone available to be my sounding board and to nudge me in the right direction. Programs such as the SIGA Women Global Mentorship Program is crucial in encouraging young leaders to explore and push their boundaries within a safe environment. I urge all sports organizations to replicate such programs and atmospheres within their organization.
For me, organizations must focus on community girls program at the grassroots level. At providing coaching and mentoring programs like SIGA Women will result in women investing mental and physical knowledge in the world of sports. Coming from the Middle East, women face difficulties in sports. Women involvement in sports is ignored, as sports represents the risk of ethics, moral, and religious beliefs. The only feature of changing the point of view of cultures and societies towards women representation and leadership in sports is time.
I'm really happy to be on the SIGA Women Global Mentorship Program with Mesa, who's an exceptional young female leader. I'm looking forward to sharing and exchanging my ideas with her.
Thank you, SIGA Women, for this excellent program and the opportunity to connect with Michelle. I am sure I will benefit from her experience.
Hello, my name is Sarah Soleiman-Ley. I work at FIFA in the governance department for the member associations of FIFA. I'm a SIGA mentor within the SIGA Global Women Mentorship Program, and today I'm with my mentee, Taryn.
Hi everyone, I'm Taryn Horner, a mentee on the program and also the sport engagement lead at Newham College of Further Education in London. We welcome you to the Web Summit on Female Sport Leadership, and we hope that you enjoy the week with us.
Great. So, Taryn, what do you think should sport organizations do to empower girls in sport?
Thanks, Sarah. This is such an important topic of discussion, and I think that it's highly important that all sports organizations and foundations are inclusive towards women and girls, and specifically towards the youth, because that's where we can have the most developmental impact. So it's highly important that sports organizations consider women's needs separate to those of their male counterparts, and that they provide opportunities for women to be their best and reach their potential within sport and the development objectives.
Well, that was great, Taryn. Thanks a lot. And do not forget to follow SIGA.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the week with us and use the hashtag SIGAWomen. Like, share, and follow.
Hi, I'm Doris Colon, CEO of the U.S. Center for Safe Sport. I am so very excited to participate in SIGA's Summit on Female Leadership in Sport, especially this March during Women's History Month. SIGA has brought together an incredible group of professional athletes, advocates, and those who support sport together to really talk about some of the tough issues that each of us encounter. So I hope you will join us March 8th through 10th. I'll see you there.
Hello, my name is Marely Flores. I'm Women's Tournaments Manager at FIFA, and I am a mentor on the SIGA Women Global Mentorship Program. Welcome to the SIGA Web Summit on Female Mentorship in Sports. I think that this program is very helpful because we can give our mentees the opportunity and also the tools that will help them to lead in this industry.
Hello, my name is Carla Hernandez Valdez. I'm from Mexico City. I'm a sales planner at Under Armour and I'm a mentee on the SIGA Women Global Mentorship Program. Welcome to the SIGA Web Summit on Female Mentorship in Sports. SIGA Women Global Mentorship Program gives me the opportunity to develop my leadership skills and grow my network. SIGA Women.
Hello, my name is Dr. Lindsay Sarah Krasnoff. I'm a historian and research associate with the Center for International Studies and Diplomacy at SOAS University of London, and I'm a mentor for the SIGA Women Global Mentorship Program.
Hi, my name is Bethany Hushin, and I am a community manager at iSport Connect and also a part-time PhD student with the Institute of Sport Business at Loughborough University in London. And I am a mentee on the SIGA Women Global Mentorship Program.
Among the many things that sports organizations can do to empower girls in sports is to be authentic, be engaging, be inclusive, but importantly, to grant them the space and the opportunity to thrive and take ownership.
Mentorship programs like this one are really important, especially as a good way for people to learn off each other from different experiences, different knowledge, different backgrounds, and also to give a bit of an insight in terms of how people have faced challenges within working in sport and how we can face them, not just individually, but together.
We hope you enjoyed the summit.
#SIGA Women.
Hi, this is Vicky Conde, a former football player, coach, and now studying a Master's in Sports Ethics and Integrity, and I am a mentee in the SIGA Women Global Mentorship Program. I think that sports organizations should have a plan not only to include girls and women, but also to empower girls and women through sports, and it should be in their agendas and one of their priorities so they can develop future leaders. I also think that in order to achieve this, we also need more women in the decision-making roles so we can create more diverse teams. And personally, learning from other women, not only in the context of sports, but also outside of sports, has been an enriching experience. And having female representation in sports organizations is an important step for younger girls and women to believe that they can be a part of the future. And with that being said, welcome to the SIGA Web Summit on Female Mentorship in Sports.
Hello everyone, I am Maureen Rosita Ojogbopison. I am a social entrepreneur and a sports and development specialist. I currently serve as program director for the SEED project, and I am a proud mentee of the SIGA Young Females in Sports Mentoring Program. Now, tomorrow is the International Women's Day, and SIGA has put together a 3-day web summit to really discuss on key themes that involve the empowerment of women in sports. I want to just, put out this message and say that getting more women involved in the sports industry or young girls involved in sports cannot be done without the male counterparts, cannot be done without male mentors. I am an example of how much male counterparts and male mentors can really encourage a young woman to embrace her full potential and to encourage her to embrace opportunities around her environment. I would not be in the position I am today if I didn't have male mentors who encourage me, who push me forward, and who really believe in me. So I believe that this web summit is an opportunity that SIGA is creating to bring stakeholders, from around the world to really discuss about the future of sports and also how to encourage and empower more young girls and women to get involved in sport programs. And I encourage each and every one of you to get registered for this web summit. It's not too late. And of course, we're looking forward to all the exciting panels and the exciting information we are going to get tomorrow. Thank you, SIGA.
Hi, my name's Stacey Copeland and I'm a proud SIGA champion and a member of the SIGA Committee for Diversity and Inclusion. I'm here today at my granddad's boxing gym where I started out in sport as a little kid. And from there I went on to represent my country in 2 sports, both football and boxing, and ultimately won the Commonwealth title as a professional boxer. Sport has given me some incredible opportunities. Going on a scholarship to America, I've been able to compete in Sweden, Brazil, Korea, Japan, Kazakhstan, and many, many more places. I've experienced different cultures, had incredible mentors, and learned so many lessons that apply to the rest of my life and have allowed me to develop and flourish as a human being. Sport is one of the most powerful things on the planet for making a difference, and it really can show humanity at its very, very best. But in order to do that, we have to have equal access and opportunities for people, regardless of race, gender, sexuality, disability, class, background, whatever it might be. Please, please be part of that, because without kids like me having opportunities in places like this, we cannot reach our full potential, and you can be part of that. And you can be part of that by attending the SIGA Women in Leadership Conference from the 8th to the 10th of March. Please be there, please be part of this incredible movement. I stand on the shoulders of the people who came before, and now it's our turn and your turn together, collectively, to stand strong and make great opportunities for the next generation so that they can go on and do even better. So please join us and we'll see you there. Thanks.
Hello, good evening from Doha in Qatar. My name's Karen Webb-Moss, and I'm currently Senior Advisor to the leadership of the Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy and the Football World Cup here in Qatar in 2022. I am a proud mentor of the SIGA Women Global Mentorship Program, and a very, very warm welcome to the SIGA Summit on Female Mentorship in Sport. Despite the increase in women's competition, number of women's sports getting onto programs such as the Olympic program, higher engaged audiences, and even female domination in some sports, despite the number of women working in sport at a senior level, despite the few, yes, unfortunately just a few women that actually run governing bodies or organising committees, despite the efforts of many organisations, primarily organisations such as SIGA, women still face significant obstacles in the world of sport. So let's have a look at some of these obstacles that we face. Trying to sum them up is not easy, but I think it comes down to one, the heritage, traditions of how sport is run, the governance of sport, the longevity of some of the presidents and the leadership. And unfortunately, these have been men for many years, many in terms after terms of leadership. And the other issue is really culture. And I think that's prime, whether that's culture within the organisations that govern sport. It's also the culture of grassroots clubs to sports on and off the field of play. The culture of an organisation and the traditions that run it lead us to obstacles, barriers and issues such as equal access to roles, lack of female opportunities for females with roles, workplace flexibility issues, lack of equal pay, inequality when it comes to media or sponsors, when it comes to TV rights for some of women's sports. And particularly with the sponsorship, this leads to huge issues for women wanting to compete at an elite level regarding their preparation as well as their competition.
Good morning, good day, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. This is Azera Chabangu, the Technical Director for the Association of National Olympic Committees of Africa, ANOCA for short. I am a mentor in the SIGA Women Global Mentorship Program. I have been involved in the program since last December, and I must say that I have been enjoying the journey, and I thank NOMSA for recommending me for this program, because I now have a structured way in which I can give back to other young women in sport who are coming through the ranks, who are finding their feet, because I believe I have an obligation to give back because of other people who have actually given me the opportunity, who have recommended me for certain tasks or certain positions to be where I am today. I believe that the biggest challenge or obstacle in sport globally is other women. And this I'm saying based on my own personal experiences, where you will find that it's actually other women that will be blocking you or blocking opportunities or taking opportunities from you. whereas you will find men will be more willing to actually assist you or to even recommend you for opportunities. So I believe that as women, as females in sport, if we can change that particular attitude, that particular mentality, we will go far.
Hi, this is Ebube Chukwu. I'm a sports management master student and an intern in Nigerian School Sports Federation. I am a mentee in Sports Integrity Global Alliance SIGA Female Mentorship Program. This mentorship program is very essential because it helps young sportswomen to brood and enhance their leadership quality and skills. The mentorship program involves mentor and mentee relationship, whereby the mentors who are well exposed and have been in the field of sports for a very long time help the mentees to actualize their potentials, because the mentees are not really much exposed, so that when we, the mentees, go out there, we'll be able to render quality services and also contribute immensely in the development of sports globally. I welcome all of us to this 2021 SIGA Web Summit, and I believe that you will enjoy your stay with us.
Hi, I'm Jackie Trainer and I'm the Anti-Doping Integrity Manager for British Rowing and Board Director for Sport Resolutions and UK Deaf Sport. I'm a mentee on SIGA Women's Global Mentorship Programme and I'm a mum of twin toddlers. Mentorship programs like SIGA Women are so important for supporting women for a career in the sports industry. Globally, the movement to grow diversity and inclusion has never had so much traction, but we can't simply click our fingers and assume that change is going to happen overnight. It needs to be nurtured before it can grow and flourish and become the new norm. Through a mentoring program, experiences can be shared and women can be supported in navigating the minefield which can be a male-dominated industry. Through my experience of SIGA Women, I have been introduced to some exceptional role models from around the world, from whom I've been able to learn and to ask the questions I've previously been afraid to ask. A mentoring program is an opportunity to reflect on yourself, to apply the guidance offered by your mentor, and to grow in confidence to become leaders and in turn become a mentor for the next generation of female leaders in sport. If you're a sports organisation, I encourage you to consider a mentoring programme. Champion your female colleagues and provide them with a platform to feel supported and valued.
Hi, I'm Jane Bond and I'm the Head of Brand, PR and Communications at the Hong Kong Rugby Union and also a mentee of the SIGA Women Global Mentorship Programme. So welcome to the SIGA Web Summit on Female Mentorship in Sports. In terms of mentorship, to me, being part of a program like SIGA has been super empowering and super beneficial. I've been amazed by the sort of caliber of mentors that have been available to chat to, some women really at the top of their sporting careers. We've chatted about stories, about how they've developed their careers and really quite amazed to hear of the challenges they've been through and how they've overcome things, something that I imagine myself getting through at some point too. So learning those kind of new skills and how to approach things has been really, really beneficial for me. Loved it so far and would really recommend anyone starting out in their career or looking to develop their career further to find something similar or get involved in SIGA because it really is very beneficial. So thank you very much for all who have organised this.
Hi. My name is Inês and I'm the founder of Sports Embassy, a Portuguese social company that promotes career transition for professional athletes. And I would like to welcome you to the SIGA Web Summit on Female Mentorship in Sports. During 3 days, we will share ideas on the main topics that have been concerning women in general and how it relates to sports. How can sports organizations empower women in sports, being sports ruled, practiced and run mainly by men? Sports teaches us that equity means we don't need equality, and I truly believe this. Why can't we all transfer this to our daily life? So a video today is shared by Sally Pearson, where a girl throws a shirt to the crowd at a basketball game. If you haven't seen it, you should. Because, and as Sally says, throw like a girl? Don't mind if I do. See you all on March the 8th. #SIGA Women.
Hi, my name's Angela Smith. I'm Chair of Stoke City Supporters Council.
and I'm a member of the SIGA Standing Committee on Gender, Race, Inclusion and Diversity. I'm also very proud to be a mentor for SIGA. Programs like SIGA Women empower girls and they help them to gain the confidence to determine their own story, and it also ensures that all girls get the opportunity to achieve their dreams, while showing there's no limit on what they can achieve.
My name is Alexandra Pinto Coelho. I'm 43 years old and I'm a sports law lawyer. My inspiration that led me to become a sports law attorney was my love for sport in general and in particular with football. I've always been involved in sport, whether as a player, spectator or volunteer, and it just made sense to aim to combine that with the day job. I'm from a small town in north of Portugal where there is a club with one of the largest associative masses. We breed football. Given my training law, I decided to combine sport with law, which led me to study sports law. After taking the college, I started writing sports law in a local sports newspaper and growing up as a sports law lawyer. I am immensely proud to win in a world especially dominated by men, which makes me even more powerful. A piece of advice I give to all women, especially those in the world of sport: never give up being what you want to be. There is still prejudice against women in the world of sport, but social mentalities are changing and we women are the cause of this. Don't be put off by the male-dominated environment. Make your voice heard.
Hello everyone, my name is Ana Marques and I am currently the Vice President of the Portuguese Sports Law Association. I was born in a sports family and since I was young, the sport lived in me. When I decided to take a law degree, I quickly realized that I can choose. So I fought to win my place in this industry. It was not an easy journey, I have to say, but it worth it in every way. Being a woman in sport is a daily challenge, but sport helped me to discover the world and helped me to understand the importance of looking outside of the box and see opportunities when the most people see risks. And being a woman in sports is about taking risks. A risk to make the difference, the risk to break prejudice, and the risk to make history.
Hello, my name is Natasha Soares and I'm a Portuguese sports lawyer. In sports, gender equality is still a vision waiting to be fulfilled, and will only be possible when we will start seeing women in leadership roles across sports federations, professional leagues and football clubs. For women to reach these roles, there are two essential actions that should be practiced now and always. Firstly, we should not be indifferent towards situations that promote gender inequality. There should be a critical attitude and a zero-tolerance policy regarding inequality. Secondly, women in their various roles in society should continue to do exactly what we do every day, and that is giving our best. Moreover, I consider that it is important to keep in mind that where there is great power, there is great responsibility. The larger the role in question, our personal qualities should be even larger and should exceed our role's obligations. There is still a long road ahead to achieve gender equality in sports, but there is a Portuguese saying stating that o caminho faz-se caminhando, which means that the way is made by walking along it.
Hello, my name is Sabrina Amorim. I'm a lawyer and also a member of Portuguese Sports Law Association. In his youth, my father was a football player. Well, not a professional one, but he passed to me his passion to sports. And it's important to reinforce that I'm an only child. During my high school, I studied in France, where I was a volleyball athlete. And I chose to study law during my college years, but also stayed focused in sport. It's not easy, it's right, especially when we work in a masculine world. Over the decades, we women, we have been fighting for our affirmation in a world that we say to be men. Our fight for equality is more and more in sight. We are creating our opportunities and gaining space, particularly in sport, as athletes, referees, or leaders. And because those who run for pleasure never tired. Happy Women's Day.
Hello, my name is Matilde Costa Dias. I am 31 years old and I am proudly a Portuguese sports lawyer. I had quite a traditional academic and professional path until I decided to take a risk and align my law degree with my passion for sports. It wasn't easy at the beginning, especially because this is mostly a men's world, but with great persistence, merit, and a huge support from my colleagues and friends, I ended up working abroad for a top sports law firm where I spent the last 5.5 years. A few months ago, I embarked on a new journey and joined the team of a Portuguese sports law firm whose founders bet and trusted in my professional capacities and where I feel that my work is constantly being valued. I am very grateful to be part of a new breed of women who combine quality in sports law, a strong academic and sporting background, and of course, the much needed human and feminine touch. If I had to give an advice to all women who wish to become a sports lawyer, I would say to never give up, ever. Happy Women's Day.
Hello everyone, my name is Marcia Sintra. I am a board member of Arena Hub in Brazil. Thanks for inviting me to be here today. Yes, women have been fighting fiercely for equality in sports over the decades. We all know that coverage of women's sports is not yet the same as men's, that women are usually paid differently from men, especially when it comes to prizes. But we cannot ignore the many advances in encouraging the girls to participate more and more in sports. And as you know, more involvement means more opportunities for titles and medals, and this is in itself an important accomplishment, I think. Hopefully the world of sports will continue to go into this direction, and sometime soon athletes will all be treated equally. At least this is our goal.
Hi, my name is Laura Sinatigli. I'm a dietitian and a career student at the Pan-African University Life and Health Sciences Institute, and I'm a mentee on the SIGA Women Global Mentorship Program with a wonderful mentor. So I say welcome to the SIGA Web Summit on Female Mentorship in Sports, and as we say in Ghana, Akwaba and Wezo. And one of the important reasons why such mentorship programs are essential is the fact that it provides us with real and concrete tools. Aside that, we get to learn from those that are currently in the industries, and they impact so much. I'm learning so much from my mentor. It's been an amazing journey so far. So once again, it's one of the reasons why it is really essential. We should have more and more of such mentorship programs being rolled out across the world. So once again, I say welcome to the SIGA Web Summit.